So I'm here with Connie Reguli out of Tennessee. We're down in it's Brentwood.
Brentwood.
So I've met you a few times in person in DC and other places. I've been a follower of yours. Don't always get to watch all of your YouTube live or your Facebook lives, but you're wonderful.
Oh,
and,
thank you.
You know, when I think about people, you particularly work with people with CPS cases.
Well, my law practice is family law
Okay.
and some civil litigation for 25 years.
Okay.
So, I mean, I do family law as well.
Okay.
But my passion is child welfare reform.
Okay. Okay. And there's only a few people that I know of that really have that same passion.
Mm-hmm.
I think about Sean McMillan.
Yeah.
There's another guy in Texas that we have, Corey Booth. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
you're familiar with him. Shayla Johnson. Have you talked with her at
No.
all? I know that you are one of the most vocal.
Yes.
And I appreciate that. But what actually got you involved in this then? Was there an incident in your own life? There's something that you saw or?
First of all, I went back to law school late in life. I
Okay.
had lived a whole nother world in the private sector before I got involved
Really?
in this.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Oh, yes. So my family was in the restaurant business.
Okay.
And we had a very nice restaurant business
Okay.
for, oh my gosh, we had it for 40 years. But I
Mhm.
really worked in it a lot from really the 70s and into the 80s. And then we had a restaurant here in Nashville. And me, my mom, my two brothers were all involved.
Okay.
And it was kind of like you get to that point and you're going like, I think there's too many cooks in the stew here.
Yeah.
Like one of us got to, we got to go somewhere. Somebody's got to go. And believe it or not, I was the one who
You were the
said,
one.
I'm going to go back to school and do something else. So I'd had an interest in really, I started into law school thinking that small business representation was what I wanted to do because
Okay.
I just seen my family struggle through that.
Right.
And when I went to law school, I went to night school, and as I was finishing law school, I was working full time. I had other business interests going on. I went and did an internship at the district attorney's office because going to law school,
Mhm.
all it's book study,
Mhm.
and you get to the end of law school and you're like, oh my God, I got to learn how to do this,
Right.
right? Because
Mhm.
I've worked all this time, I've got to make a living at it.
Right.
So
Right.
went and interned at the district attorney's office,
Mhm.
and they put me in the domestic violence area.
Okay.
So I was there. I ended up getting a full-time job there. I stayed there for about 3 years. I was never intended to be a government worker. I don't do government work very
Okay.
well
Okay.
for a variety of reasons.
Mhm.
But then I stepped out on my own, and I really went into family law. I got into family law, and really the first, because that would have been, so we're now up to about 1997.
Right. Okay.
And I really started kind of divorce law, but I just kind of touched on some CPS cases. And I'm
Mhm.
going to tell you, back then, in 1997 to about 2001, 2002,
Mhm.
we couldn't get CPS to do anything. I mean, I remember how horrified I was on this case where this 12-year-old little girl had reported sexual abuse 5 or 6 times,
Mhm.
and nobody did anything.
Mhm.
And so we were having a really hard time. And then remember, ASFA, the Adoption and Safe Families Act, started in 1997,
Mhm.
and that's a federal law.
Mhm.
And of course, it takes a while once a federal law goes into place where before it really kind of starts to trickle down
Right.
and have a big effect on the states. And so you had the adoption bonus money, and now they're trying to figure out how to get their bonus money, and you have this adoption entitlement money, you have tax incentives, and then things started to shift. And so I started seeing really weird things happen, and it wasn't really though until about 2008 maybe that I just saw this like overzealous prosecution of parents. And I mean, one of the first cases that I saw was a baby with fractured ribs,
Mhm.
and we've seen several of these now. It was the first time I'd seen one of these cases, and there was a child abuse expert at Vanderbilt University, and and I even told the parents, I'm like, wow, I don't know what to do. I mean, like,
Did it look like they actually had abused the child?
well, no, but you
You
had a doctor
Mhm.
at Vanderbilt who
Got
was
it.
going to say that the only way that child could have had fractured ribs is if the parents crushed him with their bare hands. I mean, we did a deposition, and that was her testimony.
Mhm.
And I told the parents, it's like, I know litigation. It's like, I don't know how you get another doctor
Yeah.
to come and say that that's not it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and so we really started trying to look around, what are the other things going on, and we kind of, found the brittle bone issues with babies, but
Right.
but that's when I saw that DCS was just, they didn't want alternate explanations. They didn't want to know about the medical conditions of the child. They just wanted the child.
Yeah.
And it was very sad. I mean, they got their children back, but it caused so much stress on the family. The mom actually died like 2 years later.
Because of the stress.
Yeah, aneurysm, and I'm sure it was stress related and stuff. But that's when.
So they have killed not just children.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I know exactly.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, that's a little aside there, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's true. So, and then, I started really fighting family court judicial reform for divorce people going through divorce court in about 2007, 2008, 2009. I started going down to the Tennessee General Assembly talking about that their judges were out of control, and educating them on the removal of judges because they all thought they had to be impeached. It was the first time ever in my life I'd lobbied, right? And gone down and talked to legislators, and they'd go, "Who are you here with?" And I'm like,
myself. Yeah, exactly. Do you have a card?
So I found out pretty quick. That would have been like 2009.
Yeah.
I found out pretty quick that if you're going to talk to legislators, you got to have one of two things. You've either got to have money or you got to have numbers, behind you.
Yeah.
So after that, I ended up having a year where I had to fight cancer, so that kind of took me out of the realm.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then I just kind of struggled trying to keep my business. So I really, about 2013, I kind of getting my feet back in it again, and in 2014 was when I said, 2013-14, I'm like, social media is starting to grow.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, I got to use social media to build the numbers. And so that's when I created on Facebook the Family Forward Project as a public group, and just trying to draw people in, posting every story we can find on child abuse and family stories and advocacy, and really getting it to grow there, so that when I would go talk to a legislator, I could say,
I represent.
Yeah, I'm here. And so now I go in and I say, and now social media means something. Now that President Trump turned it into a political
I love
movement.
Yeah.
Now, because I used to say Facebook, and they'd go like, well, but now I can say I'm here. I'm representing a grassroots effort in social media.
Yes.
Family Forward Project. I've got over 11,000 members.
Yeah.
And I say I've got families, I've got legislators, I've got professionals really watching things go. So that's how I got started. That was a long answer to your short question.
That's great. But the only reason you have 11,000 members is because many people don't know that it exists, or those numbers would be even higher.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that's a sad commentary to have to say something like that.
Well, and remember, there are 500,000 children in foster care.
Right.
Those are so I always tell people when I go and I talk to the public, I'm like, okay, you have 500,000 children in foster care. Every one of those children had two parents out there somewhere, has 2 or 3 or 4 grandparents, has probably some siblings, cousins, neighbors that they knew that were part of their, world.
Right.
And it easily affects 5 million people a year.
Right.
Easily.
And I would say, what I've done, Connie, when I've gone to speak to people, when I first started to talk about some of this stuff, I thought people are going to look at me like, you're a problem. There's something wrong with you.
Right.
And I mean, it's embarrassing, it's difficult, it's heartbreaking, confusing. And I thought, I've got to just speak. And as I started to speak, I got to the place that I said, in every single group that I speak to, everybody, not everybody, but there are other people there that would come up to me and say, we've had the same thing happen to us.
Yes.
And I thought that if I raised my voice, maybe they would have the courage to raise theirs.
Yeah. Because the other thing I say is, I used to say within 6 degrees of separation this happened to you. Yeah. Now I say within 3 or 4 degrees.
I was going to say, it's
because it's either your hairdresser, the person that check out at the grocery counter, the kid who's mowing your lawn. Yeah. I mean, I was checking out at Office Depot one time. I'd had some copies made, that I was going to pass out. It had something on there about Child Protective Services, and the Home Depot cashier was like, "Oh my gosh," So if you can open that conversation. You're going to find that it's touched somebody within 3 or 4 degrees of separation.
And just to a little bit, another story along these lines. I was talking with 3 people one time at work. Every single person there. It happened to my daughter. It happened to this. It happened to. I mean, and at this point when you speak, at least this is the way that I look at it. There are silent allies if they are not even the people themselves, there's somebody in the back of their mind that's saying, listen to this guy. He's speaking for us. Listen to him. So this is a huge problem, the family destruction industries.
It is.